We are live from Deltona, Florida. This is a meeting of the Charter Review Committee, and we will take a call to order and ask for roll call.
Member Allen?
Here.
Member Bryan?
Here.
Member Philpott?
Here.
Alternate Brower?
Here.
Alternate Ortiz Morales? Vice Chair Novick?
Here.
Chair Northey?
Here, and so we have a full quorum with our regular committee members. Mr. Brower is going to stick around till about 7, and we appreciate that because we always appreciate your dialogue. So just, that's what we do here. We talk by consensus, and hopefully tonight we'll be able to get some closure on a few items and then move on. Okay, Mr. Novick, would you offer the pledge to the flag for us, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first order of business. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes for the Charter Review Committee meeting for September 28th, 21? If there's no changes to those, we'll file them. Oh, there is? Okay. Okay, Don.
What'd you catch?
On page 3, it says, after discussion, the committee concurred to tie compensation to Volusia counties, and it goes on. And I went back and looked at the video, and the comment was 3 people were for that, and it just said, let's ask the attorney to draft language to tie compensation to Volusia County and bring back to the committee for a vote.
Okay, I think you might be right about that. I didn't review the video, but conversation, I think we did decide on doing that. And there is language tonight that's come back that we'll have a chance to further talk about that. So we'll make that change. And with that change, we will file the minutes as approved with the change. Okay, public forum. Mr. Fallard, would you like to address the group?
No, ma'am, I'm just here to observe. I want to listen, not speak.
Thank you. You're always welcome to join us at any time. We appreciate you showing up. Okay. So there is no other public forum business, so we'll move to old business. And the first item up is discussion and review of the following items: that the revised ballot language for running at large, Section 5, City Commission composition and qualifications for office. And Madam Attorney or Madam Deputy Manager, do you want to talk about this, bring this forward?
I will. This is Jamie Seaman. You asked for language that would have the individual district commissioners be elected within a district, but be elected at large by the city at large. That requires not only a change to A, composition, but for qualifications of office. Because they will be elected at large, they cannot represent just the district from which they sit. They will represent all of the residents of the city. So that language that said that they represent only that district had to be struck and changed accordingly. This language is very, very similar to Seminole County that has the same type of system. I know some of the committee members asked about different cities. I did research Altamont, Port Orange, DeBary. I looked at every single one of them, but I think as the way I drafted it meets your requirements, meets what you asked for, and I think is the simplest changes that could be made to the charter to accomplish that task.
So this, I'm looking at Section 5, City Commission, composition, Item 1, where it reads, there shall be a 7-member city commission consisting of a mayor and 6 commissioners, each elected on a citywide basis by the electors of the city, as opposed, and then there's a strike on language after that, and then you've added language about the candidates for office shall reside within the district from which the candidate seeks election at the time of qualifying to run for that office, and during that term of office, each commissioner shall reside in the district from which such commissioners ran for office, provided that any commissioner who is removed from a district by redistricting may continue to serve during the balance of the term of office. So here's my question. For purposes of ballot language, does this meet ballot language?
The ballot language would actually be separate. This is what your charter amendment would look like. Then we would actually draft, once you approve that this is what you're looking for, then there would be the ballot language of shall the City of Deltona's charter be amended, and we would provide that appropriate language.
Okay. So
But I didn't want to go to that assumption unless you all, as a committee, have decided this is the direction you want to go.
Okay, so then on item 2, it talks about the districts. There are 6 districts and what the boundaries, and that and you struck language and representing elected from these districts, and you struck the language and representing, and now I understand why you did that. And then the commission seat, the remaining commission seat shall be designated as the mayor's seat, and there is qualifications for office. So where you made some changes on just elected to crossed out represent and hit elected.
Right.
Okay.
And the requirement to stay within the district, that language is already in your charter, that they can't move outside their district.
Okay.
That language is already there.
Okay.
It would only be changed to say that they don't represent solely those electors within the district,
electors in
because
their
they have been elected by the city-wide electorate.
Okay. So we'll go to discussion, and Mr. Novick, I think I saw your little thing first.
I don't have any issue with the language. My question for the attorney is, how does this appear as a ballot question, because it's multiple sections? It obviously has to all come under one ballot question, because if any one of the sections were to fail, it would...
Well, it is still just Section 1 composition, Section 1 City Commission composition qualifications for office, so it would be a question of shall the city charter, Section 5, subsection 1, A, composition, and B, qualifications for office, be amended to elect the members on a citywide basis, and I would come up with that specific language.
So it all comes under Section 5, subparen 1?
Yes, sir.
That would be the ballot question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Philpott?
I have 2 questions. The first one is in qualifications for office.
Yes, sir.
And the question is, if the candidates are going to be running citywide, why would they need, in qualification, why could the 100 signatures they get, why does it have to come from their district and not from the city as a whole?
That really is a policy question for you all. Your language is distinct to your city charter. I did not find language like that in any other city charter in the Central Florida area or any of the county charters that I looked at to try to see. I thought about changing it, but I thought that was a policy decision that you all should be making, not me as an attorney. You can change it so that it is exactly the same as the mayor, that they have to get those signatures on a citywide basis. That absolutely is a policy decision for you. I did not feel it was within my authority to make that decision.
It just seems to me that if you're running citywide, you ought to be able to get your signatures citywide.
Okay.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because you're still being qualified in your own district.
But you're not representing your district anymore. You're representing clearly at large.
Didn't do away with all the districts.
And no, because that could create a huge imbalance, because the demographics are very different across the city through the districts. You wouldn't want to have 5 candidates all running from
If
Saxon
you're not
and
going to
Normandy.
represent the districts, why have them? Why should you have to live in the district if you're not going to represent that district? You see what I'm saying?
Well, if you think about how the commission votes.
I understand that. I completely understand
Okay,
that.
okay, guys, one at a time.
Well, we're just
I know, we're just
My
debating.
point to that, though, is you have a district. You are qualified in that district. You must live in that district.
Right.
The mayor does not have to live in any district, per se, just within the city limits. That's the difference between 150 and 100 signatures.
Well, I think the idea of having the 6 different districts and people spread out from across the city, just as an example, nothing to do with Crystal Lake Estates, but you wouldn't want to have 4 or 5 candidates all from Crystal Lake Estates, and then when they're up here, if they get elected, when they're voting, they're only approving projects that deal with the Newmark corridor. At least if they're living in other parts of the city, they're representing the whole city, they're voting on the whole city.
you're still
But they do
representing
have some ties to
Let me
that
just
district.
get some clarification, Elbert, because I tend to agree with you. I would prefer to see, for signature generation, that be done within a district. But I guess my question is, do you support at large? I don't remember where your status was when we talked.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it being at
Okay.
large. My issue, though, is you still represent that district because
Yes.
you qualify for that district. You have to live inside that district.
Inside the district. I don't
You should
disagree
have to
with
get
that.
signatures from that district, not citywide.
Yeah,
So why change it from 100 to 150?
Well, I don't think the question was changing it from 100 to 150. I think the question for you, Mr. Philbott, was that you suggested that they ought to be able to get their signatures
It was a question.
citywide.
citywide.
Yeah, if you're voting citywide, why not
Okay.
get electors or
Okay.
I
citywide?
disagree.
Ms. Allen, do you have any
Could
thoughts
go
on
either
that?
way.
I do. Thank you for asking. I know you told me to jump in, but I was one that was not for at large.
Okay.
Okay, and basically for the discussion we having right now. Because me personally, I don't see anything with the person running in their district, representing their district, getting signatures in their district. I'm not sure why we doing the at-large for the commissioners, because to me, the whole district, the reason why they the commissioner is to represent their area, which Deltona as a whole, but whatever, the constituents have in that particular area. And I just think when we do at-large, it's going to make it too broad.
Okay. Okay.
I'd like you to expand on what that means, represent.
Well, to me, we discussed last time we were here that the people who are commissioners are public servants. That's what we said. We weren't looking at them as politicians, but as being a public servant. And we were discussing at that time salary as a public servant.
Okay, well, we've got
So-
that coming up in another discussion.
So the point I'm making is, why are we doing at large for district voting?
Well, I think there were some of us on here, and we directed the attorney to come up with new language for us to do exactly this, to review, that there was a sense that while you represent your district, if you are voted at large, then you have to, when you're sitting up there on that dais, you have to be very concerned about not just your district, but what's happening throughout the city. And I think that's why and we're not, I mean, I know we like to think we're the big dog in the county, but truly, 100,000 city population isn't all that big for representation. So I think that's probably, that's my point anyway. I like the idea of doing at large. I agree with Elbert,
I'll say,
though.
think about also when you, like Mr. Novich said originally, when he voted on a budget, he didn't vote on a budget just for his district.
Right.
He voted on a budget for the whole city.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand the whole process. But I'm saying,
You just have
I'm
a
one of
difference
these
of
kind of people
opinion.
like this, if it's not broke, why try to fix it, you know?
Well, that's a good point.
I just,
You know, I don't look at it as being broke. I feel that
Okay.
when the commissioners come, they come with Deltona as a whole in mind.
Okay. You think they're already thinking
but if
that
you,
way.
but
Well,
if you
I
have,
mean, I would hope so.
if you have a commissioner that's coming up for reelection and he does a good job or he doesn't do a good job, that person that, if it's me, if I'm in District 6 and I'm representing District 6, only the people in District 6 can vote yay or nay on me, yet the people in District 1 may be very upset with me and not want me in office anymore because of the way I voted on a commercial project over there. And unless they're electing at large, the people in District 1 have no say on who's in any of those other seats, yet what those other 5 folks do affects the vote that took place in that other district. So that was my rationale for wanting them to be elected at large. The mechanics of how we get there, the signatures, a lot of candidates don't even bother getting the signatures anymore. They just go ahead and pay the money. They just go ahead and pay the money.
Because you're changing the compensation now.
Well, that we may or may not be. But the fact is, you know, if you don't get the 100 signatures and you want the seat, you go ahead and pay the money.
And 100 signatures ain't that many.
It's
No, it's not a
It's
lot of
not. It's
signatures.
very easy to get 100
Let me go back to Don, and then Mr. Brower.
We may
I want
wanna
you
up that
give
number.
your ideas after Don's got
If
his
you want
card
to
up.
do it citywide, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just looking for consistency. If we're going to be looking at citywide
Okay.
voters, why you would not look at citywide people for letting you become a candidate.
Jeff?
I agree that we should leave the 100 signatures within the district, try to maintain the integrity of those districts. By changing the at-large part, at least by leaving that in there, you're maintaining the integrity of that district.
So
I believe we should leave it like it
I
is.
think if I'm hearing correct, we agree that we should present a charter amendment that says, with the exception of Ms. Allen, go at large.
Yes.
And then we have a discussion on whether the signatures are 100 or 100, not 100, or 100 within the district or 100
Right.
Citywide.
Citywide, thank you. So I think there's 2 questions here, so let's take them, one at a time, so we have appropriate direction for the deputy city manager and for the attorney. And before I ask for any motions, is there anything from the staff that you would like to add to this? This is your chance.
Yeah, the only thing I had was B5 can actually be completely removed. It's no longer relevant.
Yeah, that was my second question when we get there.
Well, Don, bring it up.
And that's why I had wrote, why not delete on my note number 5, which talks about the initial election here in Deltona.
Oh,
okay.
for the initial election
Yeah, that could be
following.
deleted,
Okay,
yeah.
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 Jamie, is that, we can take that language
Yeah.
out, right? Okay. That, I don't think that's a question at all, but
Yeah.
thank you for finding that. Okay. So is there somebody who wants to offer a motion to direct the staff to return to us a ballot question where we go from district elections to at-large?
Well, I think we need to finish up two parts to that first, Madam Chair.
What? is that?
Are we going to leave it?
Well, we're going to take a separate vote on that.
Okay.
Right now, we're just talking about, do we
You
want to
you
go?
want a motion on whether we're going to vote at large,
Right,
Okay.
all commissioners at large?
Yes.
With the mayor at large as well?
yes.
I'll make the motion that
Okay,
we
you-
make.
I'll second.
that we
Okay,
move.
motion made by Mr. Bryant, seconded by Mr. Novick. Any additional discussion? So I will call for a vote of the voting members, and that is the quorum that is established, less Mr. Brower, who is here as an alternate.
Right. I have one legal question, because you said that because we are voting at large for the representatives of our district, they can't, quote, unquote, be said as representing. Is that what you said?
But what I said was they don't solely represent that district. So the language that previously existed in the charter was that they were residing within the districts for which she seeks to represent. They actually represent all the city. It's a nuance of election law, one vote, one person.
All right. I just want-
And so you can't say to that person that's in District 1, well, I voted for you, but I only represent District, you voted me, but I only represent
Right,
District
correct.
6.
Yes, so yeah, all
Right, so
right.
that's why I
just want
had
to
to.
make sure what you said.
Yes, I was just clarifying that language.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
Okay, you're good with that, Albert? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded. Any further discussion? Then let's take a roll call vote, I guess. Is that, do we need to do a roll call? Yeah,
I
let's do a
would
roll
just-
call
yeah.
vote, yeah.
Member Allen?
Do I want the,
This is if you want to go to at-large membership. I think I heard you argue against doing that.
absolutely?
So
No.
you'd be a no. Okay.
Absolutely.
Member Bryan?
Yes.
Member Philpott?
Yes.
Member Brower?
Yes.
Mr. Brower is, for purposes of this, is not a voting member tonight because we have a full quorum of all the regulars.
Okay, Vice Mayor Novick?
Yes.
And Chair Northey?
Yes. So the motion carries 4-1. And so the direction to Ms. Seaman is to write ballot language to bring back. And now we're on to the question of, this is to further clarify, the electors, the language in there now is 100 electors. If there's what we would need, it would be a motion to change that. If Don, I think you're the one who has been promoting that. If you want, I don't know if you'll get a second, but you can try.
No, it was more of a question.
Oh, okay.
Of just trying to make consistency
Okay. So
between
you're-
voting at large and.
But you're fine with leaving the language?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, okay. All right. Now, Mr. Novick, I think you said there were two things? Did
Well,
we-
the one was, were we going to leave it at 100?
So we're going to leave it at 100?
And
within
then
the-
I would assume that we're leaving it at isn't the mayor 150?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
all
so we're
right.
going to leave that alone. Okay. Nobody wants to tackle that, that's fine.
Ms.
I have
Allen
a
has her
question.
card up.
Yeah. So I want to revisit, since we decided that we're going to do at large, and I was listening to what the attorney was saying, and it sounds like if we do at large, we kind of, even though we saying we have the district, but we really, in a sense, don't. So my question is, if we're going to do at large, then I feel that the people who are running should be able to get the petition at large, not just in that district area. Since, we made the argument that the people are going to be representing the whole Deltona. So then the whole Deltona should be able to be on the petition, not just that District 1 or District 2, like
Okay.
that.
If you want to make a motion on that, you'll need to get a second, and then there'll be a
Okay.
vote. So,
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we, have, if we're going to go with at large, that the signatures should be at large.
so okay, is there a second to that motion? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Okay. So I think that finishes up item 1. And now on item 2.
We do have the deleting of number 5.
Yeah, I will
Yeah, I
clean up,
think
I will
Jamie
clean
got
up
that. Yeah.
that language that should have previously been deleted.
We don't need to vote on that, do we, Jamie?
No, there's an ordinance 2008, evidently in your 2008 election. The charter was, this section of the charter was amended, so I'm going to try to get a copy of that 2008. Sometimes Muni code is wrong,
Okay.
and so I need to check to see what happened, but we'll definitely clean that language up for you.
So we'll ask you to come back at the next meeting.
With a final ordinance with ballot language, so
And
that,
the ballot question.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we will advertise that to the public as that will be a ballot question. Okay? Is everybody good with that? Are we good so far? Okay. So ballot language for mayor and commission compensation. Section 5, that's before us under old business, compensation and expenses, and essentially it said the mayor and members of the city commission shall receive annual compensation, boy, my tongue is tied tonight, payable biweekly, and then added, compensation for the mayor shall be equivalent to 50% of the salary of the County of Volusia County Chair, and compensation for the it says for the each. I think that's probably a small typo right there. Yeah. Commission shall be equivalent to 50% of the salary of a County of Volusia County Council member. And strike language, average annual salary of the mayor and commission in the cities within Volusia County. So we're just taking that out and flipping it over to the county. And no other language changed in that. So I will entertain discussion on that, Mr. Novick and then Mr. Philpott.
Okay, and for the record, I want to give full disclosure here. During the time I was a city commissioner, I paid out of my own pocket for the city's health insurance, which the charter allows.
Right.
The state law allows for firefighters and now employees and elected officials to, if approved by the commission, it allows firefighters and city employees to continue to buy into the health insurance when they leave. When they leave.
Beyond the 6 months?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, beyond
that's
COBRA.
new. I didn't
Yeah,
know
beyond
that.
COBRA.
Okay.
That's all. The firefighters have always been that way. The employees, that's relatively
it was 6
new.
months, yeah.
But this is not COBRA. This is just being a regular part of the group. The law provides that if the commission elects to do it, they can pass a policy to allow the elected officials to continue with that health insurance, what they had at the time they left. So if they have the family plan when they leave, they can continue the family plan or drop down to the individual. Is there interest in this body to put that language in the charter to allow, because it doesn't exist today, the commissioners are the only ones that do not have the ability to buy into the city's health insurance and continue it once they leave office.
Okay.
Is there a desire by this body to look at adding that language in this section? I would like to see it added. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah, I don't have any, I certainly have any opposition to that, but I'm wondering, does that need to be language in the charter, or can that be language by policy?
Well, it can be language by policy.
I'll say it can be an ordinance, can it?
Well, that's what.
Or resolution?
It
Yeah.
could be. It could be. It could be amended
Yeah.
into the personnel policies. That's the way it was done for the
Because
employees.
We're keeping a list of those items that we're suggesting that they make ordinance or policy changes on. I personally, I agree with you. I have no problem with adding or giving that ability to the elected officials. However, I don't know that I want to add it to compensation and expenses and confuse the voters more. So, Ms. Seaman, did I see you wanted to say something?
No,
Okay.
I was talking to
Mr.
the deputy
Philpott
city
then?
manager.
Okay.
Going back to our discussions that we had last week, I just made some notes here of things that we talked about doing in regards to compensation. We talked about mostly retirees. We want to attract business people, a level of professionalism and income, lawyers, engineers with flexible schedules. You have to pay for quality, unique city, discussion on the current mayor being self-employed, and to attend meetings she doesn't get paid, and don't make money in public service. So I went out and I looked at a couple things. I looked at the salaries of elected county constitutional officers of school districts for fiscal year 2021, as shown in Chapter 145 of Florida statutes. And for Volusia County, it's $94,452.
They're not constitutional officers.
No.
Their salary is set by charter.
Right, and it has a C, small c,
Okay.
that says that they can set it by charter, but it says that's what it is. And then in what we received, it talked about Volusia County Charter and how they were going to pay their people at council members shall be 50% of that prescribed by law, and then 60% for the chair. And so looking at that, the 60% of that for the chair is $56,671, and the other commissioners, $47,226. And then I looked at what the current commissioners that are receiving that full amount, because it goes back to we want to be able to get these certain types of people in there. We have a retired person, we have a small business owner, we have a consultant, we have another small business owner, we have another small business owner, we have a minister, and we have a farmer / small business owner that are there. So they're not the engineers, the lawyers that you were talking about. So if we were to look at 50% of what that amount of money is, it raises the Deltona mayor to $28,335. The city commissioners to $23,613. Now, my position remains that I think it should stay as currently written, that it's an average of Volusia County cities. But if the intent is that we think that we're going to get lawyers and engineers to come run for office, this is my opinion, by paying $15,000 or less per year is going to change the decision that a person that's making a six-figure salary is going to make. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the people that you're going to get are going to end up being here because they are interested in public service. And so I looked at the city website and looked at the mayor, and we talked about the mayor does things that she doesn't get paid for. Well, when you look at what she currently serves on, in addition to being the mayor, there's 9 boards that she's out there on.
Probably so, yeah.
I would submit to you that if she didn't want to do this, she wouldn't be running for mayor, and she wouldn't be the mayor. And I think that that's the situation that you're going to get. I just don't think that by raising the salaries by approximately $15,000 maximum, that you're going to get anybody different than the people that you're getting today, which is the people that are interested in public service.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other thoughts on that? Mr. Bryan? Here we go.
Well, I tend to agree with him, because if you want to serve, you want to serve. And I hate to put it this way, when salary comes to mind, I think of House representatives. I think of the representatives that run for federal House representatives or for federal Senate. I think that's when I think salary becomes an issue, because there is a lot of travel with that, and there are a lot of expenses that they can't, quote unquote, take and expenditure for. If you want to serve locally, most people, and I hate to say it, like ourselves, are here to serve. I'm a citizen. I come up here every single week. I'm here every Monday night. I put in probably 25 hours a week just to study for Monday night. Do I get paid? No. It's because I want to do a civic duty for the citizens that stand behind me or who don't have the time to be able to come up here and talk.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Here's why I support a change. One, it more clarifies what it's tied to. Right now, if I understood it correctly, it's the staff that makes the decision on what cities that they're going to, when they do it, when they review it for calculation, that it is arbitrary. That's my understanding, that the city manager is arbitrarily picking 3 cities. And Deputy City Manager, do you have a thought on that?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's
What cities does he pick?
Cities
Within Volusia County, correct, but that number is broad across the county.
the sheet that we were given earlier showed all the cities, and
I know
showed
it
an
did,
average.
but it didn't say I thought it was, he picked so many cities within the county.
Joyce may know that because I think she
I understood it was an average of all.
The average of all of them?
That's what it shows on the sheet that we got.
It should be.
I don't remember that. It's the average of all of
Within
them?
the county, including the county, yes.
So they do the whole county,
Yeah.
which...
But that doesn't include the county itself,
Which
correct?
even makes
Just
me
the cities.
more concerned, because if you include the county, you got Little Pearson up there, you got Oak Hill down in southeast Volusia, so,
But you got Daytona Beach.
yeah, Daytona Beach isn't all that high.
41,000 on the last
They're
sheet.
the highest. They're the highest in the county outside of the county.
But they're not up to the county level, so. I think it's more consistent to use the county. I will also tell you that it does cost, and I'm, former elected official, did I get into that expecting to have some of the costs that I incurred? No. We did not get reimbursed for gas, which was expensive. We did not get reimbursed for a number of items. You still do it because that's what, you're right, there is a request, you want to serve your public, but it sure bites the pocketbook
I
more than what it needs to. And these numbers are fairly
Low.
they're low. They're low. They're not huge numbers. So, and they're tied to a county. And here's what I'm going to say. And as the largest city in the county, we should be reflecting a salary that we can support, and a salary that we can explain why we've got there. If I'm out there trying to tell somebody what City of Deltona mayor is, and I don't know what the salary is up in Pearson, but I do know Daytona Beach, and I maybe know the county, I just think it's cleaner. It's a cleaner way to do it. So, Chris, Mr. Novick.
I'll just say this. I'm glad you brought up the example of the mayor being on all those committees, because that's what an elected official has to do, should be doing, in order to become knowledgeable about items that they're voting on.
Yeah.
Too many times, I'll use myself as an example. My background certainly was not in transportation when I became a commissioner. But I was put on to the TPO, Transportation Planning Organization. It took me about the first 2 years to learn how that organization worked, what transportation was from the federal level down to the local level, and everything in between. Some of that came in the form of self-study. Some of that came in the form of attending seminars that were paid for either by the TPO or by the city. But it took my time over those 2 years to have the motivation to do that. After that happened and I got that education, in the remaining 6 years, we organized, myself as an elected, a staff member, and the city manager, and there was a three-pronged approach. And in those 6 years, we brought in $11 million of transportation money into the city that had never before happened. So you can take and say the money is some motivation. You can say it's not motivation to do a good job or not do a good job. I personally think that when you have somebody that is doing well and doing for the city, that you should help offset some of their expenses. There are expenses that are not reimbursable through the city, such as time. And it's commendable that Albert puts in the amount of time that he puts in to study the city issues. You have commissioners that have sat and are currently sitting that don't put in that amount of time. And I think if you're paying them more than what they're getting paid now, that the body, the public that elects them, is going to expect them to produce more because they're being now paid a salary to do a job. Look, I was a volunteer firefighter for many years. I went running into burning buildings, didn't get paid a dime for it. And then I made a career of that and got paid to do it. I just think that the time has come to, the city is growing, the work that the commissioners should be doing is much more technical. They need to be much more educated on things that come before them, and I think money, salary, is a way to justly compensate them for the amount of time required to do the job. How do you hold them accountable to do the time? That remains to be seen. We've already had that discussion. That's not something that's going to go into the charter amendment. But I think when people are fairly compensated, they tend to do a better job at what they're doing. And there are some commissioners that maybe sit up there more for the prestige of being a commissioner, not calling anybody out currently. Could be current, could be past. I just think, I know what it cost me to be a commissioner, and it was about double of what I was paid, that I paid out of my own pocket, willingly, not just in time, but also in actual dollars, because when you go to an event, when you go to an event representing the city, maybe the event ticket is paid for, but then there's always a raffle. There's always something else going on to generate money for some other cause that's not reimbursable by the city, and those things do add up, like buying a cow at the county fair.
Yes, we did that every year, and we paid for that cow out of our pockets, which was always a good thing to do.
Yeah, so
always felt good about it. Well,
I don't know. I don't know how else to try and plead the case other than I just think it's the right thing to do, because I know what it takes to do that job. I did it for 8 years, and I think that $10,000, $11,000 is just you might as well pay them nothing then. Because it's a ridiculous amount of money.
You won't get people running for nothing.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money.
Some thoughts on this?
No, I agree with the salary raise.
You agree with that? Okay. Mr. Brower, just for conversation, you have any thoughts you want to add?
I agree with what we put in here before, that there should be a raise.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
Actually, I got one thought before you entertain a motion.
Okay, let's hear it.
Just because of what Mr. Novice said earlier. He brought up insurance. And if you notice, insurance is still not paid.
No, it's not. They pay their own.
And you're talking about going half of what the county makes. You said, if I remember right, you paid, what, $2,000?
$2,000 a month. That's what I paid today, yes.
Okay, what's 2,000 times 12? 24,000.
Right.
Okay, you just swapped your salary out.
Yes, that's,
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the way,
Yeah.
that's the honest truth of what's on this paper.
Yeah.
You're talking $2,000 a month, and I'm assuming you have a family plan,
no, I have a spouse plan.
a spouse, okay. So that's two people, and you're talking $2,000 a month for insurance that he's paying for two people. That wipes out his entire salary that you're proposing, okay? Why don't we think about this? Instead of going 50% of what the county is, go a third of what the county is and pay their insurance.
Because the insurance costs go, there. It's not a controlled figure. It goes up, and it's going to go up. It's going up again in January, I would assume.
But don't you pay all the employees?
Well, here's...
And aren't they employees?
But wait a second, here's
Some people's insurance might be more than others.
But here's the problem with that.
I understand that.
Here's the problem with that.
But you don't hire somebody on what their family is.
The commission...
That's true, too.
The commission, if they're paying, if they're, again, I don't want to see the commission set the salary by ordinance, okay?
Right.
That's my opinion. That's basically what you're doing if you provide the insurance, because, first of all, not every commissioner is going to want the insurance. If they're working and have the insurance through their employer, then there's no compensation.
Then they don't have to get it.
There's no compensation to them then equal to the other commissioners that are there. Number two, when bids come before the commission to award on the insurance, they have control over who gets that, and that could potentially be a perceived conflict at that point, because they're awarding that contract on what the premiums are going to be, and they agree to that premium rate and scale and duration, how long they're locked in for. So you could have a commissioner, depending on their time in office, could be setting that contract term for the length of time that they're in office and locking that in. And I think that could be perceived as self-serving, if you will, at that time. Look, I wish to God that the city paid for my health insurance when I was sitting up there. It would have been fantastic. I just don't think that's the right thing to do. Now, along those lines, if you wanted to have that conversation about a third, I would support that if we put in the same compensation package, including the commissioners and the elected officials' Florida State retirement system, and the city paying for the elected officials' retirement premiums. Because there is under the FRS, there's a section for elected officials. I believe the county is under that. I think Orange City's under it. I don't know what other cities might be in the county.
Deltona is not in that?
Deltona is not in the elected officials FRS. So if you wanted to go with a third and you wanted to, I could support the idea of a third and going with the elected officials FRS, because that number is known and it's not controlled by any action the commission takes. I'm just against the commission setting its own compensation. I think that the people should set it. And I think by doing the insurance, they've got the ability to potentially manipulate the insurance company that gets the bid.
I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
But they've got the ability to buy into it. But a lot of folks, especially if we attracted some people that are actually working, a lot of them are already going to have health care insurance. So that doesn't really compensate them, and they would have to take the insurance.
I just know that's been a contention with a lot of the commissioners over the years.
Yeah,
I know it has.
It has been.
I would rather see you put them in the FRS than.
Let me go to Ms. Allen.
I could go with that.
Do you have any comments on the discussion?
I still agree with the 50%.
Okay. So I think I hear three voices for the compensation being raised to 50%, but I will entertain a motion on that. Otherwise, it will move.
I second the motion, and if you need it.
We've got to have a motion.
Well, I need a
before we
motion
second it.
before someone
Well,
seconds.
I make a motion for 50% for the salary.
Okay, you make a motion as it's outlined here. Compensation for the mayor shall be equivalent to 50% of the salary of the county chair. Compensation for each commissioner shall be equivalent 50%. That's what the language that has been,
Okay, so many papers I have to find.
I know, there's always so many papers.
It was in tonight's packet.
I know, I pulled out some old stuff.
I know, that's why I haven't pulled out my old stuff, because it's like, I don't want to get
But
it.
we were talking about
Yeah,
the pay,
I
so
know,
I pulled
I
that
know.
out.
So, if
I have to find that again.
okay, it's Section 5, City Commission compensation
here.
expenses. If you want to make a motion that supports the language that was submitted by the attorney for our consideration.
All righty. It's right here. Section 5. I saw something. There was something written. I do not see it now.
Would be this language here.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me make
Mr.
sure I have
Novich,
the right paper.
when you look at the insurance as a commissioner, is it budget time, or do you take a separate vote on it? I can't remember now.
This is it.
Okay.
We usually
I was
take a
looking at
separate
the
vote
other one.
on it.
Okay.
They try and, because it depends on when the data comes in from the insurance company to be able to negotiate what the rates are going to be, and if they are going to, say, raise the maximum out of pocket, change the benefits to try and keep the premiums down. Staff does all of that, and then they bring a final product to the commission, which usually, a couple of times it's happened after budget has been approved. They've tried to change those dates, and that was part of moving it to January. It used to be on an October calendar year. Now it's still, I think, on the January, correct? Okay, I think it's still on the January year, so that gave them enough time to be able to include the right premium in the October budget.
I think we have
Okay.
language now.
All righty. I would like to make a motion on the compensation that the mayor and the members of city council commission should receive annual compensation payable bi-weekly. Compensation for mayor should be equivalent to 50% of the salary of the county of Volusia county chair, and the compensation for each commissioner should be equivalent to 50% of the salary of the county of Volusia council member.
Okay,
Second.
seconded, and other discussion? We've kind of beat this one up. Want to take a roll call vote, please?
Member Allen,
Yay.
Member Bryan,
No.
Member Philpott,
No.
Vice Chair Novick,
Yes.
Chair Norton.
Yes. So we will ask the city attorney to return next week with some, well, the next meeting with ballot language on that. Okay. So we're on to ballot language for filling mayor and commission vacancies, Section 5, City Commission, 7 vacancies, forfeiture of office, suspension, filling of vacancies, and I don't know.
On this particular item, you all were discussing the vacancy of the mayor, how that's backfilled by
Yeah,
the vice mayor, et
was
cetera.
really conflicting.
You really didn't give any direction. You wanted to know what some other city charters
Yeah.
did. So I provided for you the Deltona language, which is the first thing. Port Orange was one of the ones that was
Yes.
mentioned. And they have a mayor and a vice mayor. They backfill through the majority of the city commission. DeBerry does it on an interim basis. They backfill similar to Deltona, but they backfill on an interim basis for the mayor, so it's not permanent as Deltona's is. Winter Park has a nominal mayor. They don't have an elected mayor. It's just someone on their commission is the mayor.
Oh, is it elected within the body politic?
Yes, yes.
Like
So
we
Winter
used to
Park
do?
was one of the ones mentioned, but they don't have
I read that. I
a
wondered
position
about
elected
that.
as mayor. If you read it, it says they have a 5-member commission, one of whom shall hold the title of mayor. So when they backfill their vacancies, they do it by the majority of the commission. Altamont Springs is also similar. So the question really becomes for you all, is there a problem with your charter the way it's written? Is backfilling the way you backfill with the vice mayor assuming the position of mayor, and then a commissioner being appointed for the vacant district,
Until the
an
next
issue
election.
for you all, and you need it to be changed, or
That's a good
is it
point.
fine the way it is? I mean, the bottom line is every single city, yours is different than everybody else. You don't the same. No city has the same type of body politic, the same method of election, the same method of appointing their mayor and vice mayor. So the charters are kind of all over the board, kind of to be catered exactly to how their charter works.
Okay.
I can write anything you'd like, but you need to just decide as a Charter Review Commission, is there a problem?
Well, I believe Ms. Skiffalo was the one who raised this, was a concern. So would you like to make any comments on it, Ms. Deputy Manager?
I mean, I don't really have anything new from our last conversation, so really it was just the way it was written. If you take a look at where people are in their term of office, you could be elevating your vice mayor to mayor, and it's not clear here that that person actually returns to their commission seat to complete their unexpired term to which they were elected to.
Which is what the DeBerry language, Jamie, if I understand you, the DeBerry language addresses that
DeBerry says that they fill the position temporarily.
temporarily.
Yes.
Yeah. And Port Orange is permanent.
They temporarily relinquish their office as a council member until the unexpired portion of the term is filled by a special election. That's what DeBerry does.
They call special election.
Yes.
Which is, there's expense to that, but that might be. So where do y'all stand on this one? What do you-
It doesn't have to be a special election. It can be until the next general election, and then they can go
general
back.
election.
I mean, it could be very, very many things, but it addresses the issue raised of whether it's a temporary or a permanent shift into the new position, only filling the unexpired term of that new position.
Okay,
And then you backfill the old district commission seat.
okay. And I don't, Mr. Novick, I'll ask you, I don't recall that we have had that happen with the mayor. The mayor has not ever,
Not that I can,
Yeah, so we've never
recall.
tested this.
It's happened with district
seats, right.
where people have resigned for whatever reason to run for another office, or they've just resigned for personal reasons, and then we've never had the issue of filling the mayor's seat with the mayor temporarily and having to deal with the issue that the deputy city manager brought up about the terms, because if it's an odd numbered seat, then there's not an issue. If it's an even numbered seat that fills that, which would be the case right now, because Anita is an even numbered seat.
District 2, right.
And Heidi is the mayor's elected on an odd,
Right.
on an odd year. So
So
the way I personally interpret it is that Anita would be the mayor until there was another mayoral election, and then she's out. The vice mayor's out of their
Unless
seat,
she would run for her old
Unless-
seat.
which she wouldn't do on the mayoral election because she's an even.
Because she's an even.
No, but wouldn't you have to have a special election just for her seat anyhow? Yeah. Because you just temporarily filled it.
appointing them.
Depends on where she's at in her term. So
Yeah.
if
Well, if there's 1 year left,
If Anita, let's say Heidi quit today,
okay,
and Anita goes over to take Heidi's seat. Anita would be the mayor until November of
election.
2022,
cool.
okay? Because we're more than 2 years, right? Yeah, so she would be the mayor till 2022. Anita's seat, then, from a district perspective, is now vacant.
Correct.
So the commission then would appoint,
And that would be a
Until the next
permanent
election.
appointment.
that would be a permanent appointment
I
until
think that's-
2024. No,
2022.
it would have to be 2022,
Correct.
but that would only be then
A two-year term.
two-year
Yeah.
term. And it's
Correct.
because of where she is in her
cycle.
4-year cycle.
Right.
Yeah. So it
And then
would,
she
it
could run
wouldn't
for
be.
mayor, or she could rerun for her seat.
Oh, it would throw out.
The question is would that actually be termed a special election? And Lisa Lewis, I don't know, would probably have to answer that if the city would have to pay.
If it exceeds 2 years, if the term, the unexpired term exceeds 2 years, your charter says that the person shall be appointed until the next regularly scheduled election.
Correct.
So
Okay,
there's no cost there.
so there's no cost, but then it would only be until it would only be a 2-year and 2-month
Well,
term.
that's
Correct.
Until 2024, because otherwise you would get the evens and odds all out of sync.
right.
and
But
you'd be a-
I'm okay with that. I would be okay with that.
That's the way I think the intent of this is. I don't know.
That's the way I've always read it.
I don't know
Okay.
if somebody challenged it in court, if it would hold up.
So am I?
That's why I asked last time if it was legally binding the way it is.
It functions. There's nothing in here that would cause a problem. It's whether or not this is the way you want it to be, or whether you would want that person to go back to their district seat and hold that special election like DeBerry does, because it's only
I think
temporary.
this is the language that when the people voted on the charter initially, this is the language. That's what they're
Do you know how old the language is in DeBerry? Do you know if it had been changed when they amended their language?
Give me just a second.
Because remember, DeBerry just went through all that turmoil in their council, and I don't know, I do know their charter was amended around that time as well.
They threw out their mayor in DeBerry.
That was the mayor, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if things were amended, because I do know there was also some charter amendments after that,
Yeah, I don't remember this being one of them, but I didn't.
or right
that's-
before that. I can't remember which.
I don't think that,
I don't really
I don't think they've-
see it. If the attorney's advice is that this would work, I don't see tinkering with
well,
it. It hasn't.
we're 25 years old now, and we've not had an issue with it because we've had a mayor that has
You've only
been
had 2 mayors,
consistent.
other than Heidi.
Well, yes.
I mean, so.
Yeah, so-
and so it's been pretty stable as far as being
and
mayor.
I think we have to consider how many charter amendments do we want to move forward, and is this one that is worthy of that? So it would be my recommendation, and Ms. Allen hasn't spoken yet, nor has Mr. Philpott. I'd like to hear from them what their thoughts are on this. Ms. Allen?
I don't have a problem with the way it is.
Okay. Mr. Philpott?
I'm like Ms. Allen, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, so we're going to not direct the attorney to come back with any additional ballot language.
I'd leave it the way it is. That's what I said last
Okay.
time.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm
All
okay.
right.
As long, I wanted
Okay.
to hear the attorney say that she felt this was defensible in court.
Right, yeah, right.
Okay,
Okay, all right.
then leave it alone.
Okay, that then brings us to, excuse me, I'm getting my papers. Discussion and review of Section 7 Charter Officers for the Deltona City Charter. Let me get my charter out. We did pretty well. We went through that other stuff
You
pretty good.
did. Thank you, Joyce.
just trying to find what one we put the charter under, what number?
Section 7,
7, is that in here? I don't have a
Section 7, charter officers?
No, I don't know, I'm talking about in the binder, I'm trying to find it in the binder.
Oh,
No, it's
It's in 3.
Section 3.
Section 3.
I just found it, okay.
Section 3, page
Page
8.
Page 8. I actually didn't think we would get to this tonight, so. Okay, so it's been our process to go through each section, each numbered section, and say yay or nay, or if there's any additional. Wait a minute, I'm still not in the right place here. Commission districts. I'm still in the wrong place. Hold on a minute, I'm getting there, guys. Well, where am
In the meantime, to answer Albert's question, DeBerry made some changes in 2020 and in 2013 and in 2006, but none of them were to that language. It was regarding the removal of office, how to remove.
Okay, it was how to remove one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so in what we were given on page 8, section 7, charter officers, and it begins with charter officers, appointment, removal, compensation, filling of vacancies and candidates for city office. So the first line is designates who should be charter officers, and that's city manager and city attorney. I'm sure we're all okay with that. And then any appointment, appointment, they shall be appointed by a supermajority of 5 votes of the full commission and shall serve at the pleasure of the commission. So that it's a supermajority, and I think that's kind of consistent around policy in other cities. I certainly know it's policy at the county. You have to have a supermajority. Are we comfortable leaving supermajority in for the appointment?
I am.
Okay. Removal. The charter officer shall be removed from office only by a supermajority of 5 votes of the full commission. If the vote is less than unanimous, the charter officer may, within 7 days of the dismissal notice by the commission, submit to the mayor a written request for reconsideration. Any action taken by the commission at the reconsideration shall be final. I will tell you, I have real issue with this language that was added at I think the last Charter Review Committee. They added this language. Once a manager loses the majority of their members' support, they're done.
Can I ask a question?
They're done.
When it talks about ununanimous, you have to have a supermajority. I understand a supermajority is not unanimous, but why is it given 7 days to be able to make another motion to the, what's called? Because I'm like, Pat, once you have a supermajority that are going to vote against you, that's that.
Well, for me, it's a majority. I'm done. We even need a supermajority. It should be. I think this should be struck. This whole language should be struck. Is my opinion.
Yeah, I'm like you. Once you have a majority, no matter what, you're done. But to vote for it, you should have a supermajority to remove.
I would disagree with that. For me, if once a manager loses four members of that commission, a majority of the commission sitting up there says we don't want this person as our manager anymore, that manager's done, and they ought to be leaving. So I don't like this language at all, the removal language, but that's my opinion, and I'm just one person here. So is there any comments on this from?
I support that it has to be by supermajority. And I think to appoint or remove, because I have seen heated commission meetings where commissioners get caught up in the heat of the moment and don't think through all of the ramifications of what they're doing at the time that they do it. They may bow to mob mentality. They may not have time to research everything thoroughly that needs to be researched. And I think the reconsideration, if the manager wants to try and stay, the reconsideration period is like a cooling off.
So you're comfortable with the language as it's written?
I think,
Okay.
based on what I've seen happen with managers in Deltona and commission over my time as a commissioner and as an employee, I think that this is good common sense. If the manager doesn't belong here,
We'll just disagree on that.
okay.
Because I think
If
it's
the manager doesn't belong here.
4 votes, you're gone, buddy.
they're-
You're gone, sister. You know, it's just the
Well,
way it is. It's-
I want to ask a question then, because what do you think it should be, Pat, since you disagree with?
I think it should be by not supermajority, but by a majority, which in this commission would be 4 votes of the full commission. I know what generated this language. I get that. There was the politics but from a perspective of governance, I don't know how a manager who doesn't have a majority support, has lost their majority, how they continue to provide guidance and everyday operation. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with the dismissal motion coming back, but that's just my position. So, Albert, you're okay with the language? Except for I don't understand that language that you're talking about either, what that means.
I'd rather see a supermajority, but I just don't get why, if it's not a unanimous decision, why you need 7 days to make a decision whether he wants to stay or not. To me, once you're fired, your butt's fired.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Well,
Well, he wouldn't have been fired if it wasn't the supermajority.
Again, I've seen it for.
We just said here that the city shall, the charter officers shall be removed from the city only by supermajority, and so that would be the 5 that we're talking about.
Right.
But what Pat was just talking about was 4. It's still a majority, but not a supermajority. And so, or even if it was not unanimous, they could still come back, if there was.
so I think what the language means then, and I think it's if 7 votes said fire this guy or this gal,
There's no recourse.
there's no recourse. The recourse is if it's not unanimous, and the recourse is he or she can come back and request reconsideration. Yeah, okay. I don't like any of this language, but that's just me. So I don't know whether I'm
Well, it gives the manager the opportunity to defend the ambush. That's what it does. And if they have an opportunity to speak
gives the
with.
manager an unfair advantage. When the manager loses his majority, he or she has lost the majority, and it's time to move on.
I hear you, but we're just going to agree to disagree.
On this one. Okay. And so, Mr. Philpott, I'm understanding you're okay with the language as is written.
I am.
And have you gotten clarification? Are you comfortable enough to leave this leave this language as it is, Mr. Bryan, or do you want to change anything on there?
I have mixed feelings, and I agree with the supermajority, because I think a supermajority should have to fire the mayor. I just don't understand why, if a supermajority more or less voted to remove you from that seat, why do you want to have any consideration to come back to that seat, knowing that 5 people don't want you in that seat?
Well, a smart city manager at that point should probably exit and say, I'm out of here.
They always have. I don't know of any of them that have come
A
back.
smart city manager that loses a majority shouldn't rely on 5.
I'll even go to the county level when we had issues with Denning. And he had been here for eons.
Who?
Dennings.
Deneen?
Huh?
Deneen?
Deneen, however you say his name. He had been here for a while, and yet his popularity eroded because of certain things that had been done. And they took a vote once, if I remember right, and he was still fine. He still had a majority on that seat. And then a couple years later, if I remember right, is when all the heat, he took heat. Why would he want to stay after taking all that heat, especially when he had the public standing outside the way he did?
Well, he did resign.
Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, why would he want to take, if he had a vote that put him out, why would he want to stay?
Well, I'm with you on that. I mean, if
that
there's
just-
4
to me, that
votes
wouldn't
up
make
there that
sense.
says, we don't want you, Mr. Manager or Madam Manager, I'd be out of here. But, so
it's
I
one thing
don't,
if you have
this
one or
language
two,
was,
because I've seen that within the Deltona Commission, where you have 1 or 2 that are against the manager. I've seen that, and
It's
even
manager.
that creates friction.
The manager.
yeah.
Not the mayor. Manager.
I just know that there was a, well, I won't go into past history. Ms. Allen, are you okay with the
I'm
language?
okay with the language.
All right, I lost that one.
Moving on.
Okay. All right. Item C is standard language. Composition of the charter officer shall be fixed by the city commission. There's no issue with that, I would assume. Filling of vacancies. Is there any issue with the 90 days vacancy? And that there is an
Well,
acting,
There is.
okay? Within 90 days.
There's a loophole here on filling the vacancy for the manager or the attorney.
Oh, okay.
You have a permanently acting city manager currently,
Yeah.
and that's not the intent of this charter. Now, I'm not arguing for or against Mr. Peters. That's not the purpose of this, because he's an individual. This is the bedrock of how the city runs. This is the foundation, okay? And currently, I believe this document is being ignored. He's the permanent acting city manager. You want to make him the city manager, then vote and make him the city manager. But this interim or temporary or whatever title he currently has is BS. So there's something in this document, Madam Attorney, that is allowing the commission to circumvent the intent of the voters who approved this charter, because he is not currently the permanent city manager. And this is not a reflection on Mr. Peters.
I get that.
Okay.
But it states that they have to start the process within 90 days.
Within 90 days.
When Jane was fired, they started the process.
Yes.
Within 90 days.
Yes.
Nobody's ever finished it. If you remember right, I stood at that podium and argued that point to get a headhunter. Find at least 3 or 4 companies to get a headhunter. Y'all voted for that.
Yes.
When they replaced Mr. Cooper and put Mr. Peters in, I pleaded with them at that point in time. Find a headhunter. Continue the process.
And they're not
And they stated the process was started according to charter.
And
So if you-
and that's where, Madam Attorney, the language here is weak.
It's not finishable.
Because there is, unless there's something going on that I don't know about, and I'm certainly not in the know.
But you can argue the same thing with the city lawyer.
Well, let's take one thing at a time.
Okay.
That's another section that maybe the language needs to be corrected to allow the circumstance that exists, because what we have currently, I think, works. But again, the intent of the charter was that when the commission got rid of a manager, a process would take place to hire a new permanent city manager, not leave a city manager dangling out there. And again,
Do you have
I
a
just want to make it
timetable?
very clear, it's not a problem with Peters. My problem is this. My problem is the appearance from the business and investment people that are looking, do I want to come to Deltona? Do I want to invest $4.2 million in purchasing a plaza on Deltona Boulevard? Do I want to invest that kind of money in this city, not knowing that we have an unstable management team.
Okay, do you
Because
want a
we don't have a permanent manager. So for protecting the city, I think we've got to take a look at this language and try and offer something that will tighten it up. Now, whether the commission will send that on to the voters, I don't know if they'll do that or not. But at least we're going to have the discussion.
So
I hope.
I'm going to ask the attorney how, I mean, I think Chris is making the point that and Elbert, that we have exceeded the 90 days. And
But it doesn't say that the acting city attorney may only act for 90 days. What you're missing in that language is a time frame in which someone can function in the acting position.
Right.
So if I were going to argue the other side, and I'm not saying this is good, I'm just arguing the other side for you, they've begun the process within 90 days. They're still working on it. It may take them to but we really are.
Yeah.
okay.
And so what you're missing there, and you're missing it in it's two places within the charter as I see it, is you're missing that no city manager may be appointed in the acting position for no longer than. Okay? What happens once you appoint in the next section, and I'm just pulling you down there so that I can put the charter as a whole together, is that once they're appointed, they must move into the city limits within 6 months, and that can be extended for another 6 months. So if it were, we're talking Mr. Peters right now, not because we have anything against Mr. Peters, but simply the circumstance that we find ourselves in. If they were to appoint him, he would have basically no greater than a year to move into the.
However.
But if he chose not to do that, then he would no longer qualify.
But there's another workaround to that.
Okay.
On Monday night, you make a motion to dismiss him and send him back to his job at Public Works, because that's what's in his contract. The following Monday, you reappoint him.
Correct. Right.
And again, that's not the intent. That's not the intent of this. If it is the intent to do it that way, then we need to change the wording here.
Well, maybe the wording, maybe that the issue is less about filling the vacancy within 90 days or setting the not filling the vacancy, but starting the process is
you understand, if you change one, you're going to change it for both charter officers.
Absolutely.
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 That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I brought it up earlier. It's the same with the city lawyer, because it says and or it says or.
The city attorney's not acting.
City attorney, it's a contract.
He doesn't have to, because it's a firm.
No, the language for the city attorney is different.
It says he has to live in the city.
No. The city attorney language is different. It says the city attorney shall serve as chief legal advisor. Where is it? I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm looking at it.
The appointment of an in-house attorney, he or she shall establish and maintain residency. That language was changed several years ago.
Yes.
Because of this very circumstance. I'm not arguing yay or nay for it. I'm just simply saying that there was an issue with finding a city attorney to live within the city of Deltona.
Right.
And in 2008, the charter language was changed so that it read in-house attorney.
Which meant that
as
they could
opposed to
Yes.
a contract attorney.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not arguing right or wrong, guys. Please, I'm just telling you that specific language was added.
You're saying because he's quote unquote a contract attorney.
Yes, his firm is under contract.
Even though we would hire any attorney as a contract attorney, he's not an in-house attorney.
He's not an in-house attorney.
He's not an in-house attorney.
Yeah.
Voss wasn't in-house attorney, was she?
No.
Was, no, she was a
No, the
firm as well.
last one that we had
No,
was
it only says that an in-house
the
attorney shall
African-American.
move.
No, he wasn't in, he lived in Daytona. You're talking about Roland?
Roland was,
Roland lived in Daytona.
but Roland was the city attorney.
You're right. He was the city attorney.
Roland was the city attorney.
You're right.
I don't know if it was a period of time, but I think he's the last, oh, no, we had one more. Gary Cooney. He bought a condo.
That's right.
Yeah, he bought a condo down at Lakeshore, yes.
Okay, so let's go back to item B. And, no, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm way
no.
off. Item D.
Right.
And
And I think what Mr. Novick's concern is there's no time frame. No maximum window from which someone can function in that acting or
Okay.
interim condition.
is there interest from the committee
So basically
to
what
add
you're
that?
saying,
Add language?
In all reality, is all the language there in D can stay the same. You just need to add, let's say, within a 2-year period,
Whatever that maximum window is,
Because-
you all feel comfortable with.
if you take, and you have to, within 90 days, that's 3 months, take and start the process. You take another 3 months.
Phyllis's phone's cut off.
I love that ring.
You're buying the first round.
I'm like, what?
We'd find
Anyhow,
you
you
a
have 3
dollar
months
at Rotary.
to start the process of filling the position. You have 3 months, let's say, to find a headhunter. That's 6 months. Then let's say you have another 3 months to actually find.
It takes about at least a year,
That's what I'm saying.
usually.
So
Yeah.
why don't we look at, like, let's say within 2 years,
I think 18
18, I would
months.
say 18 months.
I think 18
Yeah, I think
months is
that's-
more than a fair amount of time for commission
and then it would, if possible, need extension 6 months.
So off the top of my head, and this is, we'll look at the language later, you're basically saying no person shall be appointed acting city manager or acting city attorney for longer than 18 months.
Right.
Yes.
That's, again, I'll work on the language, but that's just off the
Now,
top of
here
my
again, do
head.
you want to add an extension to that in case there's an issue? Let's say we have a hurricane right in the middle of it, or another pandemic, and you have to shut everything down.
The city commission may extend for an additional 6 months for exigent circumstances?
Right.
Yeah, okay. You want to work on some language on that?
I can, if that's the consensus, that you would like to see
is that
some
the
language like
consensus?
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a
Needs
good
to be an
start.
end date.
I think there's got to be some kind of an end date to it, because again, like I said, it affects the stability of the city in terms of development, I think, and people looking at that.
Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all. I have this on silent, believe it or not.
Must be one of your,
I wanted to mention something.
Sure.
I mean, I agree with what we just said as well, but you were mentioning before, Madam Chairperson, that the education, sounded like you was getting ready to say something about education.
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, not with the manager. I would assume that they're educated and that
The job
certainly
description
the
set
job
by the
description,
commission.
yeah.
What they're looking
Yeah,
for,
so,
how many
yeah.
years they want as an acting, as
Yeah.
a deputy
They'll-
city manager or city manager, if they want a BA, a master's, whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so Jamie, we'll look to you to come back with some recommendation language on D.
Yes, ma'am.
And then candidate for city office, charter officer shall not be a candidate, and I think that's probably language that's okay. I don't see anybody, okay. So, down to qualifications, powers, and duties. Qualifications, the city manager shall be selected on the basis of experience, expertise, education, and management ability as it pertains to running municipal government. Although the city manager need not be a resident of the city at the time of appointment, within 6 months of such appointment, he or she shall establish and maintain residency within the corporate limits of the city, and upon request, the 6-month period may be extended by the city commissioner for an additional 6-month period. Okay, let's talk about this one. Yes,
Joyce, you might have recollection of this. Didn't this go to the voters once before?
3 times.
The residency?
Yeah, 3 times.
Did it go 3 times?
Yes, three different times it's been on the charter review. I've looked it up thoroughly, trust me.
Yeah. And this is
Because of the way it was worded, because it just said, in the way they put it on the charter, is that the manager did not have to be a resident of the city, period.
And that
they
failed.
That got voted down
that
3
failed.
different times.
That
Yes.
language got voted
Yeah.
down.
Yes, correct.
I like that. I mean, I guess I could make the argument with today's real estate values, with everything that's happening, that there is an argument to be made that somebody they live within a certain distance of the city, that rather than sell their house and have to move in. I personally like the idea of the manager living in the city. That's what
I do too.
Yeah, that's what I like.
So you don't think they're professional enough to live outside the
Well,
city
you
and
know,
be a manager?
Well, I think they are. Well, I can make
Don't
that. I
get
can
me
make
wrong,
that
I'm
argument either
not
way.
busting on you, because I've heard
No,
both
no,
sides
no.
of this argument.
I can make that argument either way, because I'll give you another example, and I'm going to use Ms. Seaman, who, if I had been sitting on the county council, she would have had my vote for county attorney, if that had, when I was on there, if that had come up, if Dan had retired early and the option was given to me, she would have been my selection. And she lives in Winter
live in
Springs.
Seminole County.
Seminole County.
For
And in the
24
county
years
charter, the
represented.
attorney has to live within the county, too. So, I mean, I can make the argument either way, very frankly. I mean, she certainly would have qualified for me, except for her, and you wouldn't have sold your house and moved.
No.
No. So, I think that there's, I think the commission, the ones that I have spoken with back before we got started, I think there is some request to kind of,
Well, that's the reason why this committee's here, because that's the way I asked for it.
yeah. Well, there wants some language for clarification.
Yeah.
So what are you proposing then?
I propose leave it up to the commission, like it says in the, what is
Okay, well,
this?
that's not what this says, though.
You're right, it's not. In the model charter, because in the model charter, it says that the city manager should live within the city unless voted by commissioner or otherwise.
Okay.
So basically, you're leaving it up to the commissioners whether they want to manager in the city or not. And that could be a lot of different ways. What I really have an issue with is, to me, an attorney, a city manager, they're both professionals. Are they going to have that much difference in the way they manage, whether they live in the city or not?
Albert, you have been at these meetings.
You make what?
You have been at these meetings, these
I
commission
know.
meetings, over and over again. And you know, as well as I'm sitting in this chair,
Absolutely.
that somebody
50%.
will come up and say, okay, you don't care what the garbage rates are, Mr. Manager. You didn't negotiate that
You're right.
contract carried about us
Absolutely.
because you don't live here. You live in Timbuktu. If you had to pay these garbage rates, you would have negotiated a better contract.
They've said the same thing about commissioners, too, haven't they?
But I live in the city. I live in the city.
Right.
So when I
They said
said
the same thing.
when I voted for a garbage rate, it affected me.
Right.
And so the fact that this.
But the manager could, because they're pretty well paid, find a room somewhere and pay, and have an address. Mr. Philpott, you've been
That's
quiet.
what Cooper did.
That's what Gary
Cooper
Cooney did.
That's what that attorney did, so.
A couple things. One, on the last time that the charter amendment came up for the public, they voted overwhelmingly that the person had to live. It was 5,000 to 17,000 on saying live in the city. In the guide that you're talking about, it says, while it's preferable for the manager to live in the community, the model does not requirement, and it talks about housing availability and cost. when I got ready to retire from my first job, I was a member of the International City County Managers Association. I wanted to be a city manager. I was going to be moving. When you look at cities that are hiring city managers, even the deputy, most of the city managers are coming from someplace else. And if they can come from someplace else, I'm with the 17,000 people that say they need to live in Deltona.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But they don't have to be from Deltona.
No.
No, there's-
No, they have 6 months to move into the city, and that can be extended by 6 months.
So,
And here, the guy that came from Virginia Beach, okay? He came down here, he rented a house after he was given the job. He had daughters that were finishing their education in Virginia Beach. He was not going to move his wife and his 2 daughters here to Deltona and uproot them in whatever it was, their senior year in high school, I forget. Let's just say senior year in high school. He was going to let them finish up. And so the commission voted to give him the additional 6 months for him and his wife to come here house hunt. And she was coming down while the girls were finishing up school on the weekends and stuff, and they were looking at houses and that. But that's the reason for the 1-year period of time, is to give them an opportunity to, when you become a city manager, you know you're going to move. You're
Most do,
going
yes,
to
unless they're
move,
from
because
the
typically
area.
your life expectancy is one election.
Yeah.
5 to 6 years.
Yeah, one election usually, maybe 2.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, not everybody's a Ken Parker,
Or Tom Kelly.
or Tom Kelly. But, so that's the reason for the 6 months on the front and the ability to grant 6
So I
months.
think what I'm hearing is that there is no recommendation to change this language.
I do not support changing it.
Okay, and Don,
I do not either.
Phyllis?
Leave it the way it is.
Okay, all right. So we'll move on to, I do have a question, though, and I don't know whether it's directed to the deputy city manager or the attorney, because I don't remember what the guidelines are. We're going to be preparing a list of recommendations, because here it goes to the commission for them to vote. Do they have the option to add?
Yes.
Okay, so they could.
Yeah, they could add this if
Yes,
they
they
wanted.
could add this.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we're going to let that one go. Okay. All right, powers and duties, the city shall. Did you all have an opportunity to read? Is there anything on here that stands out as an issue? This language seems pretty consistent with what you would expect a city manager to do. So just take a few minutes and review that. I think it's pretty consistent with what you expect of a city manager, what their job description would be. So is there any changes to the job description? Section B. Are we good?
Good.
All right.
Good.
Okay. So now we go to the city attorney, qualifications, powers, and duties. And this is another one of those where there was some discussion about whether the attorney had to live in the city or not. So anything on section A or B that we need to address? Or are we comfortable with the way it's running now?
Personally, I'd rather just do away with the in-house. Why specify? If you're going to continuously hire firms, that's a useless line in the chart. You're bypassing that by saying that you're contracting for a lawyer. That's no different than what he just made the argument with as far as the manager. I'd remove the in-house. and just,
You would remove within 6 months of the appointment of an in-house attorney, he or she shall establish and maintain residency.
absolutely.
You just would
I see no
take
reason
that
for a
out.
lawyer to have to live in my city. He's set up by the bar. The bar says that he has to be a professional attorney. And
Well,
if you don't think he's being a professional, you can take him before the bar and question his ethics.
Well, but I think that this language, originally, if I remember, they were required to live within the city, and by changing, if I understand this correctly, Jamie, by adding in-house attorney, that gives them the ability to hire a firm.
Right.
So is it necessary to change it? Is it necessary to use a ballot question to change that?
Before we discuss that further, let me bring up an issue, and I don't know how we even begin to address it or fix it. Under the current circumstances, that we have a firm and not a in-house charter officer, we have legal staff that works for the city manager. We have city employees that work in the legal department that work for the city manager.
Okay.
But by gentleman's agreement, answer to the city attorney or work with the city attorney. In the past, this has become an issue and become a problem.
For the manager or for the lawyer?
For the employees.
Okay.
Because they have had to answer to the city manager under direction that has been given by the city attorney. There's a conflict there. The intent of the charter was to have an in-house city attorney that had their own staff that was answerable to that city attorney.
Correct.
And not to the manager.
Correct.
And that has become, there has been problems with that over the years, and that line is fuzzy.
Can you restate that again? I'm not sure I understand what your
You have a
issue
city
is.
attorney.
Okay,
And you have a contracted attorney.
right.
Okay? When you have a city attorney, he has a staff, he or she has a staff that works for them,
Okay.
employees. When you have the contracted.
Does that say that in here, or did it specifically say that, or does it say that all employees?
It says legal counsel and shall have full managerial authority of any
okay.
employee who works directly
Okay.
under the attorney.
Okay.
That language is in the charter.
Okay,
Okay? So because we don't have a city attorney, that legal staff works for the city manager and not for the city attorney. Now, I don't know if that's been addressed, Madam Deputy, if that's been addressed through a contractual agreement with Skip, if that's been fixed or not. It would seem to me that would be the thing to do, but then Skip doesn't pay them, the city pays them. So I don't know. I just know that it's been problematic because it's a fuzzy line.
Understood. I can give you some examples. Seminole County has similar language, that the Seminole County Attorney's Office has a separate office with a separate budget, and the staff is answerable only to the Seminole County Attorney. Volusia County's charter authorizes the county attorney, who may appoint assistant county attorneys, but the staff are employees of the city manager, and under the charter have rights under the personnel code, and dismissal is by the city manager. And you're right, it's a gentleman's agreement or gentlewoman's agreement between whomever holds the office to try to work those issues out. And it can be problematic. I do not disagree with you, Mr. Novick. It can be problematic.
So I don't know if this is the place to try and attempt to clarify that or fix it. Another issue that arose in the past was the city manager hired outside legal counsel to represent in a collective bargaining agreement. They hired a labor attorney.
Understood.
And the commission set a policy when I was on the commission that all outside counsel would have to be, you would go through the city attorney. They would hire and fire outside counsel. So if the manager wanted a labor attorney, they theoretically would go to Skip and say, hey, we think we need a labor attorney to negotiate this bargaining agreement. Skip could choose to do that. Skip could choose to say, no, I'm going to negotiate with the union. I'll be your labor attorney. In the past, that was quite expensive for the city. Under a previous manager, when that was done, and the city attorney wasn't, the contracted city attorney wasn't taken into consideration, $475,000 was spent on outside labor counsel to settle what wound up being a $400,000 union contract that, once it was signed by the commission, became problematic for the city attorney with particular issues in that contract. So again, I think this might be important enough of a topic to maybe stop our conversation for tonight, give you an opportunity to digest this a little further, maybe get some background from the manager and from Skip, and see if you can give us some guidance on what might fix those potential blurry lines. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, that there can be conflicts within it. So is everybody good with leaving it there? Okay.
I mean, the contract is with the city commission, so some of these questions might be answerable in the actual contract. So I think you're right, give me the opportunity to go pull that contract and try to bring you back some of the answers.
I don't want to make a problem where there's already been a solution to it through other means.
Understood.
But I don't know that this is surfaced again since long ago city managers.
Understood.
And I would ask whether it rises to a charter or whether it rises to a policy issue as well. So.
Well, the only reason I think it rises to a charter is because it does talk in here about staff and employees and so forth. So I think, again, commission and the legal team and the management may be comfortable with it, and I may be way off base.
What you're discerning is the difference between, let's say, staff that Fowler brought in himself versus employees that are here that are legal beagles, for lack of other term. So you're saying that we have city employees that are paid by the city that are on a quote-unquote legal staff.
Yes.
That answer right now to Mr. Peters and Mr. Fowler.
Yes.
There would primarily be paralegals, possibly, or legal assistants or secretarial support.
Yes.
The lawyers.
The lawyers all come from Skips.
Yes.
Correct.
But
I don't know this. I don't know the particulars. I'm just.
right, I understand. The way I understand it right now, Marcia, for the most part, is at this city hall most of the days of the week.
At Skip's direction, yes.
Correct. So wouldn't those legal people be more or less working underneath her daily?
They do, but by gentleman's agreement, I believe, unless it's in Skip's contract.
I don't know what the contract
I don't know
reads.
the answer to that.
Okay.
But I know.
I just wanted to clarify what you were saying as far as.
I mean, if they had a paralegal and Skip had a problem with them, they were not doing what they were supposed to do, they were late, they weren't dressing properly, whatever. Skip technically would have to go to the city manager and say, hey, I'm having a problem with so-and-so here, here's the reasons, and then the city manager could say, okay, this person's disciplined. As far as I know, Skip doesn't have the ability, or Marcia doesn't have the ability to approve, suspend, discipline, take any action against anybody on the legal staff because they're not her employee.
They're not the employee.
Yet they work for her.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have responsibility without authority.
All right.
So we'll try to get that.
Because Fowler's a firm
Yeah.
and
And
doesn't
not,
work directly
not
in
a
the
city employee.
Okay.
And before we close out, I just want to raise one other thing, and if you all would entertain, I'm back on page 5. It talks about suspension from office, and that is specific to elected officials. And it reads, "A commissioner shall be suspended from office by the commission acting as a body upon a return of indictment or issuance of information charging the commissioner with any crime which is punishable as a felony, with any crime arising out of his or her official conduct or duties which is punishable as a misdemeanor." My question is that language that we should add to the...
Where are you reading? I'm sorry.
That's on page 5 of the charter.
Okay.
Whether that's language that should be added also to charter officers. And I say that, and you all know the experience that we went through with a charter officer who there was a bill against, and she ended up she was found guilty.
No, she was not.
Well,
But it was
she
explained as a
pled
personal
guilty.
issue.
Pardon me?
It was explained as a personal issue
But she was charged.
and found guilty, as you put it.
Yeah,
Was not found guilty, she pled.
She pled.
There's a difference.
Doesn't matter to me that difference exists.
She was found guilty of doing it.
She was guilty.
Okay.
She should have been removed at the time of being, in my opinion. So I'm just throwing that out there for y'all to think about, whether or not that language,
And that's what a lot of the citizens based their complaints at the podium about.
Yes,
And that's what we were told, that it was a personal issue.
it was not a personal issue.
Thank
I
you
know
for
what,
clarifying
you
that.
and I are on the same page on this one, I think. So anyway, if you all would just think about that and whether we need to add, I guess, a morals clause. Would that be a morals clause, Jamie? Some kind of a morals clause to, is that something that's in other charters? Could you, I don't want you to do a lot of research.
Or I can just call the Florida Association of
Yeah.
Cities and see what I can
Yeah,
come up
okay.
with.
That would be great.
Morals clause for charter officers.
Yeah, okay. So are we all good tonight?
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to come back next meeting with 2 recommendations of ballot language, the question on the attorney and the morals clause. Will be old business. Okay? With that, we will stand adjourned, and thank you all for your attention to everything. Staff, I appreciate all the work you do. Staff, I appreciate that.
Got a lot done today.
Staff in the back that doesn't,
We got a lot done today.
huh? We got a lot more done tonight than I thought we would. I'm very happy
Got a
with
lot done.
tonight. Yeah. Okay, we're adjourned.
Madam Chairperson, I'm not sure if I...